Okay, we are recording. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
So I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing?
Fine. Thank you for
Good.
taking your time to have this discussion.
My pleasure. So Julie Shimoni is a coach, among other things, and I met her originally at the NLP Center of New York, and Julie's gone through all the courses there, and now you're a trainer, right? You
Yes.
became a trainer of NLP officially. And one thing I can say, having been her trainer at one point, is that it was always a pleasure to have her in the room, and just the kind of the excitement and energy that she brings to this endeavor is wonderful. So that's
too kind, Rob.
so that's part of the reason why we're here chatting today. Now, Julie, do you want to share a little bit about your background, just so people have some idea? I don't know so much about your educational background. Or
So regarding education, I am a registered nurse, bachelor with bachelor. I had a master in health administration, and I have done several courses also in health. Here in New York, I studied to be master practitioner of NLP and the trainer after that, and also Ericksonian Hypnosis master practitioner. And these two things, like NLP and hypnosis, are techniques or a study that has opened me to many opportunities to discover who I am. That I'm Jew. I was born in Mumbai, India, and there was very small community of Indian Jews there. So, and you are forced to believe there is God. You know, there is a God, and I like, where is he? Like the Hinduism, they have, statues, and we don't have statues.
right.
So I'm like, when we go to the synagogue,
we only get one God.
One God. I'm like pressing myself. Maybe I can see the God in the synagogue. Of course, I didn't see no God. And like many times, my friends from India, they asked me, where is your God? Like, and I had no answer. I couldn't see him. So, and then we went to Israel to live. I was brought there, like I grew up there.
How old were you?
I was 12.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so I did the middle school, the high school, and the college years there, of course, and the military. So, but coming to Israel, it was like, oh, now maybe I can see him in the Holy Land.
right.
Disappointed.
You went to the main place, yeah. Did you find him?
Of course, I was disappointed. I didn't see him. Like, I was like, maybe I'm not seeing. I'm just sarcastic. But I couldn't figure out what everybody is talking about. As a child, I didn't know. Like, okay, we are praying, and how come one prayer is answered and the second one not? Why? And like, I was, as a child, as I grew up, all these questions every time. And no God, like, even I went to the Western Wall in Jerusalem. Well, how do you say, holiest place, and people putting their, wishes there. Well, I couldn't see the God, so I didn't want to put a wish.
Okay.
So that was the start of understanding what are we doing here? What is our purpose? Who am I? Who am I here? There, everything started.
So we're going to use that, some of what Julie just shared about her background to start what I hope will be a rich conversation today. And for me, it's NLP certainly is not. NLP is not a religious practice, right? But so one thing that's been very interesting for me as a trainer over the years is experiencing different students and seeing their relationship of their spiritual practice and the practice of NLP. In my background, I'm Jewish. I sort of grew up more as a Buddhist, a Zen Buddhist, and which many people say is a secular practice. But still, I always found it interesting, the intersections of kind of the NLP toolkit and religion. And I'll give you an example of, sort of the questions that have crossed my mind over the years. People have experiences, you may call it a spiritual experience or an aha experience or an experience of some sort of enlightenment. I don't question somebody having an experience. What I'm interested in NLP is, can that experience become accessible to more people? Like the thing that I loved in NLP was that there was a consistency to it, that if, like with the phobia technique, if somebody has a phobia, they come in with a phobia, they leave without a phobia. So with spiritual practices in NLP, I'm interested that someday some of those spiritual practices can be modeled so that more people can have access to them. So that's a bit of my interest. That being said, I want to ask you a question. When we were speaking the other day, you mentioned that that you felt a particular calling recently, and what I'll say about the term calling, I love that term actually. Like for me, it's very emotional because it's something that I've felt at various times in my life. Now, I think a lot of times when people think of calling, they think of it in a religious sense, but for me, a calling is just that. It's an internal impetus to do something, or something is meaningful or significant, and it pulls you in a certain direction. So you experienced something like that recently. What can you speak to that a little bit? I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah. Well, I want to share first what was the root of that calling. I remember, like in 2009, it was like, and it was not like once, it was like I was asking many questions to myself about life, what is happening, many questions, philosophical questions. And in one point, I got this aha moment that said, there is only one I, one me that is the same, and everything else is my senses, my body, my brain, my heart, everything is but only one I. So there was like, it was like, what is this I that I am? Who am I? Because everything is but there is an I, and who that is, I decided to just, I wanted the answer. Who am I? And then, yeah.
So I want to slow that down. Sorry for interrupting.
No, please.
So the my is what the I is experiencing, right? Like it's the I, my hands is the eyes.
Yeah,
hands,
it is my, everything is like, all the body is, you can say it's like the objects. It is all outside, not inside. Everything is outside. You are like, it's some type of consciousness, and everything else is of the consciousness. Like, it is not the consciousness itself.
And so this is clear enough. This is a very deep topic, and we could talk for hours about this. I mean, there's an idea of identity.
Yes.
Or somebody or something having an experience, having an ongoing experience. And very often people will talk about the ego but there's something that's experiencing this moment, right? You're experiencing it, I'm experiencing it. Very often in Buddhism, we're asking a question of who is it that's having this experience at this moment. And then, there's this whole artifice of beliefs and all that stuff that, well, let me put it a different way. There's this idea of the large I, which is the ongoing experience, who's having this experience. And then there's the small I, which is, okay, I'm Rob Schwartz. I feel this way about things. I have my beliefs. That's almost a structure that's built around this tiny identity, as opposed to the large identity. But back to your calling. So you had this experience of I and my.
And then I started, like, I wanted the answer. So I started, I went to the basic, and that was the scriptures. So I started reading the Old Testament and the New Testament, and I started like reading books that were also regarding that. And then I went to Bhagavad Gita and Quran, and all the learning I understood from the phrases that are there, verses as that were there. And it was also experienced that there is the I that is eternal. And it is, as you said, there is a universal consciousness, and there is the individual consciousness. And we are part of this universal consciousness. So my colleague, I was learning, and I work till now, I work in the State Department of Health. And for 2 years, I was like, I get up in the morning and it says to me, you have to help people that are dying. And I didn't know what it came about. Like, and I am afraid of that.
And let me ask you, how were you experiencing that inclination?
It's every minute in your mind. Like you're trying to see the outside world. There is something inside that is telling you, you are not in your place, or you need, it's ongoing all the time. And I'm saying, like, it's definitely not for me, because though I know so much, I don't want to deal with that. Like I lost my father when I was 18. I am certainly not going to deal with that. It is a very hard thing, very vague thing. Nobody knows nothing about it. People say that they do. Well, so I started also learning about it.
So this is interesting. Something you said really popped out for me. In NLP, we talk about different models and different maps. And one of the maps, at least that Robert Dilts and Stephen Gilligan talk about a lot, is this idea of the hero's journey. And in the hero's journey, there's this kind of innocent self that's in the garden, everything's going great. And then you sort of get kicked out of the garden and you're dealing with the struggles of life. And then you get a call, which is very much what you described. And very often after the call, there's a stage of rejecting the call. Yeah. Which is what you were trying to do. It sounded like you were like, nope, this isn't me. I don't want to be bothered. Yeah. I like death.
Dealing with it.
So what made you run towards the dragon, so to speak? Like,
it didn't leave me.
Scary. Okay.
Very scary, very scary. And who am I to teach people or guide people on such a heavy topic? Very heavy topic. People don't want to deal with it. There is no something like, boy's death. Death is always painful for you or for your relatives or both. So it doesn't even dreams. You have to do it. It's like it's like, you get poking all the time, and you say, enough is enough. I will do it.
Okay, stop bugging me. Yeah,
So
great. So then what happened?
because just the thoughts are like, when we are looking outside, when you're looking on the world from outside world, generally the thoughts are created from the outside world in. I see something, I think. I meet something, I think. But when there is an inner thinking, that is a different thing. That is really someone speaking through you, because it is not from a reflection on the outside that I saw a man, I'm thinking about him. No, that is outside in. But I had that inside that I have to bring it outside. If I'm clear, I hope.
Yeah. I mean, there's certain things that we perceive as coming from the outside, certain things that we perceive as coming from the inside. I could sort of discourse on that philosophically. I mean, it's very interesting. Just to give you an example, early on in psychology, when people would hear a voice in their head, they thought they were crazy. Now we just call it, well, either they were crazy or they were a prophet, right?
Okay, yeah.
And now we might call it internal dialogue. So I think there are different ways that people experience those things. And what you're describing is, are you experiencing it as it's coming from the outside? It's an outward influence. It's somebody's opinion.
No, it is not from outside. It's from inside.
Or is it an inner inclination? So
yes.
So what'd you do next? Now that you decided that you weren't going to ignore this anymore.
First of all, when I decided it, I felt so much relief. Only the decision, making the decision made me like so much calmer. Like I decided, it was like, because it was so much bugging. It's like something is bugging you all the time, and it's so annoying, though it is a good thing maybe, but it is annoying. And I just felt, I said, I'm doing it, that's it. And I started, all what I read, I brought it again, I connected it, I studied day and night to understand the concepts. And what I did, with the help of the techniques called NLP and hypnosis, I experienced it on myself, not once, not twice, not three, so that I understand that it can be done.
And you and I talked about it. What is it that can be done?
In the hypnosis, when you relax and when your senses are so calm, almost asleep, but your subconscious mind is alert, aware. So all your body, my body, is relaxed. Nothing that is coming from outside in, only the inside voice. And then when you are in that state, it takes a bit time. And you're that state that you understand that you're not the body, you're not your senses, you are some kind of consciousness. I'm lying there, and you start experiencing like a self of yourself. There is a self, the only I that is in yourself. So that self, it's like an energy, and definitely it can't die, because energy doesn't die. Energy just, transfer. So, and I understood that this is a body and we have a soul, and there is something like pro soul that attach this body and the soul. So understanding that the soul or spirit or self, doesn't matter what you call it, everything is the same. You can, with the help of a deep hypnosis, you can come and connect with it, connect with that self, and realizing that you are connected to the self, and it is not a self that will die. it is something continuous. And also, of course, I know I learned. I don't know anything. As long as I learn more, I know how much I don't know. But I understand it's from the hypnosis also, I could understand what can happen after. I can't say I'm speaking for myself, I'm speaking with the books, but I believe in what I read and the scriptures. I'm not saying it in the point of view of religion, not at all. I am a Jew and I read all the scriptures, and I believe in the soul, and I believe in spiritualism, and that there is a self that evolve.
Okay, let me hop in a little bit, because I do want to sort of clarify a few points.
Okay.
And again, I'm sort of speaking from the NLP perspective, NLP
Perfect.
or Ericksonian work. Because what I was saying in the beginning is I'm very curious always about different phenomena in the world, and then whether we can model them so that more people can experience them. But one term I wanted to clean up a little bit, because I think it has a lot of baggage, is the term hypnosis. And so maybe if somebody is listening to this and they may have a preconception of that term, and the type of hypnosis that we do in NLP is mostly Ericksonian based hypnotherapy. And I prefer the term trance, or a deep awareness. Hypnosis, very often the connotation might be that of the hypnotist imposing some views or beliefs on the person they're working with. Whereas what we're really talking about here is kind of a deep meditative state. And I believe that's what you're talking about. Is that right? So it's not about me becoming in this trance where I'm going to believe because you're giving me these ideas. I'm actually becoming very present to the moment, so that maybe I can have an experience of myself, like you're saying.
Perfectly said. Yeah, it's what people need to know about hypnosis or trance or whatever direction is that though all the body, your senses are very, very relaxed, almost asleep, like you can feel the numb, your subconscious is very, very alert. And I can't put on you something that you don't want. I can't say something that you reject. You can't accept it. You will not accept it because your subconscious mind is very alert. But here I am not even, there are no suggestions or anything in this hypnosis. This hypnosis is to make you connect with your inner self. So it is not any suggestion. It is just getting to that point, your body, that you realize that the body is only the organ. It is something, right. And to understand that there is a self, a consciousness of yourself
that's having all these experiences.
Yes.
Now, the tricky thing with, I do believe we'll get to the point with, through all the spiritual paths and with NLP, where people will be able to have a more immediate experience of these things more directly. But I think it's tricky, and I think that's why people practice these different practices for many, many years. I think part of what you're talking about is, if I try to describe to somebody what it's like to sneeze, I can talk about it for 10 years, and they're not going to really know what it means until they sneeze, and then they go, "Oh, that was a sneeze. Now I recognize what Rob's been talking about all those years."
Fantastic example.
Right. So
perfect.
So I will say one thing I recommend is because for me it really resonated in the book, The Power of Now. I don't know if you read that book.
I read it twice.
Yeah, right. So in the beginning, Eckhart Tolle kind of tells the story of his awakening.
Yeah.
I mean, even that term is can be, I think, a little bit misleading, but I thought it was such a great, I mean, he went through this incredible experience. And the reason he went through this experience was that he was experiencing so much suffering, so much depression and pain and suffering. And then one day there was this voice went into his head and kind of asked him, who is the one who's suffering? And in that moment, like all that ego kind of fell apart, and he was just there. So I think maybe that's a little bit of what, is that a little bit of what you're experiencing when you're in that quiet place, that you're just having an experience of the raw self?
Yes, that is exactly. But I didn't have so low point in my.
Right,
I just
right.
It was the questions, so many questions. I guess the subconscious mind or the self had to answer eventually.
Right. Now, so we don't forget, let's bring this back to your calling of helping people who are going through death or hospice or something like that. What tools are you bringing for them to, you're almost like a a concierge to help them go through that experience and make sense of their life and get rid of anxiety. So what's that like when you're working with someone?
My base, as I said, is scripture. The understanding is from the scriptures and not in a religious way. And so the measures or the techniques that I use to unveil your inner self and connect to this supreme source of eternal power is, first of all, it's neuro-linguistic programming. So this is a study of subjective experiences that defines our thoughts, emotions, and actions. So I use this because everybody has, issues, problems. And when you are in that point, I prefer, before doing hypnosis, doing the neuro-linguistic programming, if they have any uncertainty or any fears, one of the techniques that I use is 6-step reframing. So it's like healing before entering that self.
So you're cleaning out you're going into the attic, you're cleaning things out before.
Yes, before.
Yeah. So you're healing past experiences. And
if they have an anxiety or phobia, so I take my time and I just to see if there are any disturbance that, like, in the end of life, that is disturbing them. So just getting release of that, so that first of all, they don't have anything disturbing in their head. And if it is not, it is not completed by neuro-linguistic programming, I do the core transformations and which acts on a deeper level of consciousness. So, and it helps you establish the connection with your inner self. And so, only then,
go ahead, sorry, only then.
And only then I start the process of hypnosis. And again, the process of hypnosis, not to give suggestion, it's just to bring you to such a point that you understand that there is a self, there is a consciousness beside this body.
Great. Okay. I just wanted to, Julie mentioned two different, they're techniques, they're frameworks that we use in NLP. One is called 6-step reframing, and the other is called core transformation. But if I was to oversimplify, I would say they're both techniques where you can achieve some healing through kind of communicating with your inner self, locating anything that needs healing, and and giving those inner parts whatever they need. That you can look online to find out about those different techniques, certainly. But I love this idea that you're sort of doing all the healing so that then the person can be there to be present to this other experience.
Bob, you are also the experienced NLP trainer. You do the job fantastic.
Oh.
Rob taught me. So
I'll give myself a pat on the back.
Yeah, and I'm giving, as I was a good student.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, not so much in this talk, but I think I would like to, I'm curious with another topic, which maybe is a modeling opportunity, which is Julie is so kind. And, these are things that, even though it seems like it's just a built-in quality, I think there's always something that we can learn from that. And, that's something that I see you bringing to your work that really, really enhances it. It's like, I think that, makes it possible for someone to be comfortable with you and working with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're kind.
So, thank you. I have moments, but you, yeah.
Well, you taught me modeling, and you did the best work. Like, and on one of the sessions, I also model you how you do that. So I hope you remember. It was a long time ago.
Yeah. Not that long ago. We're not that old.
Yeah. We are young.
So, okay. So you're gonna have this video on your website. I want to get some information from you about your website. So I'll put a link so that if I have this on my site, people can find you also if they want to know more.
And same I will do. When I will put it, I will write your URL. So maybe if you can help them in different things. I am helping this topic.
Yeah.
There are so many topics that you can help.
Yeah. One thing I would say to anybody who is going through that end of life experience or has family, I really would recommend working with someone like Julie, because even if you're not religious or don't have those beliefs, the type of healing that you can experience and also relief from anxiety and fear can be really profound, in those difficult times. So.
And hypnosis and hypnosis, neuro-linguistic programming, or co-transformation has nothing whatsoever to do with religion at all. Right.
Yeah.
So and also the scripture.
And everything to do with it. Yeah.
But the scriptures are the one that taught me, really the one that were my teachers.
Yeah, and we didn't really get into that. The one thing I'll say about that is, like the hero's journey, the scripture is, if you can take it literally in one sense, but you can also take it as an archetype, as a map of experience. And I think that's very much the sense that you take it. Like you see stages that people go through in their evolution. So
yeah, it's like I don't see it as an ancient story or stories of these heroes or people. I see it as a scientific book and like a psychological drama that is going on in the state of mind of people. So with each person that is there in Bible is related to us regarding what's going on in our consciousness and how to deal with it.
Right. The garden is in there, being cast out of the garden is in there. Everything's in there.
Everything. And of course, even before like coming to that, we have the opportunity to grow, evolve, even when we are alive, and get to that point, to heal ourselves before even getting to the point of the end. But end is very important to, to pass. It's like spiritual realm is like a dimension away. It's not like it's only a dimension away. We don't know the dimension because we are dense. Our density is not the same, or we are not on the same vibration as the consciousness that has lesser dense is after the death. So they are, you can't, it's like a radio when you're at this line or this line. Yeah.
Well, that'll be talk part 2. So
okay.
but Julie, thank you so much for
thank you so much. You are such a great, how do you say, a coach, master, and teacher. I really appreciate, and everything you taught me, I remember it till now and appreciate your help.
Well, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to see you. Okay.
Thank you. It was a pleasure too. Bye.